Okay, if you see that chemoreceptor trigger zone, this is the one of the mechanism of pathway which is regulating by the vomiting center. Then this is the chemoreceptor trigger zone, that is nothing but CTZ, which are located in the blood-brain barrier and which has a very permeable nature. Because of that space, it is circulating the substances very easily like cytotoxic agents. Okay, so that is nothing but, as you have idea that this CTZ center which consists of the D2 receptors, okay, D2 receptors and 5-HT3 receptors. This point you please note it down, my dear student. The CTZ center which consists of 5-HT3 receptors as well D2 receptors, as well these vomiting center which contain muscarinic receptors. Okay, so muscarinic receptors, 5-HT3 receptor and D2 receptors. So as you know that receptors are the very important factors which are receiving the information and stimulating for the further signals. Okay, so what you have to understand here, once we administering the chemotherapeutic agents, they immediately have act on the CTZ center. Why? Because CTZ center is the one which is located at the blood-brain barrier and which has a semi-permeable in nature, so that circulating the substances very easily in this manner. So that once we are administering the cytotoxic agents of the chemotherapy drugs which is directly act on the CTZ center, then these CTZ center which directly stimulate the vomiting center and causing the vomiting reflex. Okay, so I am giving the indication of this. You see that cytotoxic agents which directly act on the chemoreceptor trigger zone and which is stimulating the vomiting center and which is stimulating for the vomiting reflex. Okay, so this is the first thing, you please note it down. Next come to second thing. Okay, as we have idea already, that is nothing but motion sickness or morning sickness. Okay, so motion sickness and morning sickness usually produce in the labyrinth. Labyrinth is the one, as you know, that which is placed in the ear. Okay, so labyrinth is the one which is helpful for the maintenance of the balance. Okay, this is the labyrinth which act when the person is affected with the motion sickness or morning sickness. This is the one which is sending the electrical signals to the brainstem via vestibular nuclear nerve, that is the 8th cranial nerve. Okay, this is the labyrinth which send the signals towards to the brainstem via vestibulocochlear nerve, that is the 8th cranial nerve. Okay, and to the brainstem in the sense, mainly specifically in the brainstem, it sends the signals to the vestibular nuclei. Okay, so these vestibular nuclei, okay, you please listen carefully, my dear student. The labyrinth is the one which is triggered by the motion sickness or morning sickness. Immediately this sends the information to the brainstem via vestibulocochlear nerve, that is the 8th cranial nerve. Okay, so when it's been sending the signals to the brainstem, that is the situation of the point is the pons, that is where is the location of the vestibular nuclei. That means the labyrinth is sending the signals to the brainstem of the pons of the vestibular nuclei via vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, so this vestibular cochlear nerve which contains the two receptor, my dear student, that is the histamine, that is H1 receptor and muscarinic receptors. Okay, this please try to understand. Okay, so if you see that once the morning sickness or motion sickness comes, immediately this is sending the signals to the vestibular cochlea. So vestibular cochlea which has the two receptor, via these two receptor receives the information, immediately stimulating to the chemoreceptor trigger zone, that is nothing but CTZ trigger zone, which is stimulating and sending the impulses to the vomiting center, and through the vomiting centers it's been entering into the vomiting reflex. Okay, so this is the mechanism. Motion sickness, morning sickness, immediately stimulate the impulses to the vestibular cochlear to CTZ center to vomiting center